First up is Susanne, Vice President at Novozymes. Susanne has a keen interest in both people and technology and has a progressive approach to new ways of working. The signals Susanne has chosen to discuss are signal number 1, employees take control of hybrid work, and signal number 7, extreme localization of cultures in organizations. So let's hear what Susanne has to say.
So, Susanne, which of these signals do you find interesting in your role in your organization?
Yeah, thanks, Erik. As you know, I am personally very passionate about delivering impact through sustainable leadership. So from my current environment, the signals that speak the most to me are the one about employees taking an active role in a hybrid context. And then I actually relate that very much to the subcultures, but we can come back to that. So if we talk about the first one, about, we have been through the past 2 years of COVID, which to a very large degree has opened up for all of us, including myself, that there's a different way to conduct work. And as an organization, we need to offer something different. So I think everybody is at a point where already now, you can say we are offering this mix of ways that you can be engaging with the employees, some or with the workplace. Some have to be full-time because that's the nature of the job. Some can work hybrid, some work completely remote. And that's what we're doing today. But that's something that we, as an organization, as a corporation, has offered and kind of put upon our employees. And what I think is really interesting about this signal is that that's a change in the fact that now it's the employees that we are trying to attract or retain who are saying, I want something else. That's at least how I read the signal. I want to work from Costa Rica 3 months a year. I want to, not work or work when it suits me and not in the work time that you have defined. And that we as an organization are not ready for today. And that is both from a cultural point of view and from a more practical point of view.
You see, that is exactly what we are seeing, that the past 2 years in a lockdown situation, the organizations have been driving the way that the hybrid work has been embraced. We do this, we have these platforms, this is the way that we meet up. But now we see the shift to the other side, where it's the employees taking the agenda and saying how we want to have that. How can you prepare, for example, your organization, your processes, your touch points, your decision processes for embracing that?
Yeah, that's where I think the other signal comes into play about subcultures. Because I think what is very much at stake, if you kind of take for granted that the type of work that you're doing can actually be done anywhere, anytime. That's not everything that we do in Novozymes, but you can say a large part of what we do, including my own job, can actually be done anytime, anywhere. But it requires coordination, it requires collaboration. And if you're going to stay and be loyal to the company and the people that you work with, it, in my mind, requires a sense of belonging. So I think for me, the starting point, there's a practical part of it around employee rules and engagement contracts. I think those things we can talk about another time. I think the more interesting aspect is the cultural and leadership part of this. So I think the first thing is it requires a complete, I would say almost upgrade of the mindset of us as leaders in terms of what is our role as leaders if we're not here to define when and how work takes place, but we're here to set the direction, create a sense of purpose, and more importantly, create a sense of belonging so that when you can shop around anytime, any place, you choose to work for me or for the mission that we are on in Novozymes. And that's where I think the other signal about cultures or subcultures comes into play, because I think that will be immensely important to be able to attract people to actually want to work on this mission, on this team. And that is not necessarily signing into the overall purpose of what we're doing in Novozymes or what we're doing in Agriculture and Industrial Biosolution, my division, but it's about what mission are we on? Are you able to articulate that? Are you able to allow for a culture where the type of skills, the type of people that you need right now are actually attracted to that environment? They can see themselves working. You have the right team, competences, diversity in that team. It's for a period of time. It's not necessarily permanent. That we are not ready for. And we're not, starting with us as leaders, We're not ready for that. The mental model is, I hire you, you have a job description, you are here for actually until you or I choose to resign, the termination. So this kind of fixed mindset about how we work, there's a defined role, there's a defined job description, changing that into, we're on a project, we're on a mission, we're to solve a task, and for that we are engaging together. And if you want to stay, I have to offer something, representing the company. Also, if I, as an employee, I'm employed myself, want to stay, there's something different I want from the organization than what I'm getting today. And I think personally that it's leadership and culture that will make the difference about whether you choose to be engaged with one or the other, so to speak.
So that signal is about, or we call it extreme localization of cultures.
Yes.
And it's a flip going away from, maybe you at one point had this cultural program called One Novozymes or One Siemens or One Ørsted or something like that, that alluded to that we needed some kind of homogeneous culture. And what you're talking about and what we can see in the signals is that this is, we're embracing nuances, we're embracing dialects in order to, exactly as you say, to attract people, to make it relevant very, very locally. So what kind of leadership does that require? Because I would imagine that the leadership also will have dialects when it comes to actually creating that subculture.
Yes. Let me answer it in two ways, because I think, as you say, we are moving away from this, uniform, one culture, 4 values. We still have that. But what I think is I think it's actually there already. I think the subcultures are there. If I look at our company, there are naturally tribes or sense of belongings, but today it's just happening, you can say, kind of as a movement towards the one size fits all, but it's already there. So I think the change will be, how do we then build on what is already there? We accept and accelerate or accentuate that is actually what we want, is these subcultures within a certain set of behaviors. Because I actually think that there is a difference between, and it's also moral and ethics around, how we as a company behave. So if you are associated, in this case, to the Novozymes brand, there's a certain set of values and behaviors that we accept or tolerate. Those are, not up for discussion. Within those frames, go crazy in your subcultures. And as you say, we will have leaders who are, super entrepreneurial and very good at building business. We'll have people who are super meticulous and very good at driving detailed cost out or manufacturing, etc. So it's about first embracing that diversity and leadership, recognizing we have different roles, we have a different task at hand. So again, we are not uniform as leaders. Collectively, we're hopefully delivering on the journey that we are on, doubling the impact of the company. But you could say, as an organization, I think we are quite far from, again, embracing and kind of tolerating that there are differences. And it feels different when you go to one part of the building or from one floor to the other. And that is okay. That is on purpose, because they are on one mission, we are on another. And how do you then nurture and attract the people that are the best for solving that task? That I think we are. You've been to our location. It looks very uniform. And you can say right now we have to change the way we work, the way we lead, and what we put emphasis on when we go to work. Is it that you fit in, or is it that you bring curiosity, diversity, push us to see the world in a different way? And I think that will be even more important. You can say as more and more work get automized, and you can say what we bring as humans is perspectives, challenges, questions. That's what the human brain is fit for. And you can say all the standard work goes away. So we have to allow for that creativity and create spaces where that can happen. I think.
So when you look across the value chain from R&D to scale up to products to sales to finance, you will end up with a number of local dialects of the culture. What's the risk in that?
Huge risk and huge responsibility. So back to the leader's role already today is actually connecting and seeing. I think you call it brokerage and brokering the tension between those tribes. So I think the risk is that you have an atomization of the organization where then the sense of belonging diminishes. So you actually don't understand why do we have to be part of this? Can't we just branch out? I think we see that already today. A lot of people leaving corporates because they don't get what they want in these two signals. And then it's easier to go out, find in a world of abundant capital, you can easily go out and get your idea funded, and you rally around 25 people in a startup where you feel much higher sense of belonging. I think that is a major risk. And I think there's a lot of money in getting the retention part right. So, why am I, as a business leader, interested? That's because I think there's a super large business case in both retaining and attracting the right talent. And we have, you can say, the experience, we have the capital to make it happen. So how do you make it attractive to stay? And how do you, as a leader, facilitate that you get healthy tension, competition, friction between the tribes, but at the same time you facilitate that they actually collaborate because everybody is needed to get the maximum out of it. And that, I think, will be a real, not a risk, but at least a challenge to overcome.
So how can we get the organization together to shape the future they want to be part of? How can we mitigate that risk? How can we embrace all the differences and the nuances? How can we do that?
I think the first thing is starting to talk about it. So again, embracing that we are on a journey and they are on the journey with us, and we actively want them to help shape us. So it's not something new, but you can say ask people and engage them and saying, if this is what we're seeing, the signals that you are sending out, releasing today, I want everybody in my organization to read that. And then I want them to talk about which ones, just as you asked me, which ones speak to you. I'm sure there's others that speaks more to them. And how do we then, as a company, so we start a movement, not driven by, me as the leader, but the team, and saying, this is what we like. We would like to shape it this way. I have these needs. How can we accommodate it? So I think it's the classical, through dialogue, through co-creation, through engagement, by giving the autonomy and the responsibility for them to also shape the future and not just either wait for something to come from corporate, because then we know it won't hit what they want, or leave because they don't see a way forward. So those are the two things that I'm trying to balance and to mitigate in my job. But I think the first thing is creating awareness, having a mindset where you are actually actively looking for what's coming, and also embracing that and saying, we want to change. We need to change to stay at the forefront. Help us do that. And don't expect that I have all the answers, because I don't.
I think neither of us have the answers, but experimenting with this, as you said, download the document, dive into it very, very locally, not only on a corporate level, but in your business unit, in your team. Play around with it, and as leaders around you, embrace that now we are trying something, we are building local dialects of the culture, local dialects of what we do, and we try to shape the way forward locally. I think that's a way forward.
Yeah.